Hi everybody, Kevin Kryston here with week one for our crisis monitoring assignment. I apologize for the kind of informal attire, but it is awful nice right now. But without any further ado, I did my crisis monitoring project on the NBA and Los Angeles Clippers crisis with Donald Sterling and his racist comments that were recorded privately in his home that have resulted in quite the PR crisis from a lot of different angles. So, without any further ado, let's get right into it. So, looking at the crisis, it all stemmed from an April 25th report from the entertainment reporting and kind of gossip site TMZ, which released a recorded tape of Donald Sterling, who owns the Los Angeles Clippers, in a private conversation with his quote unquote girlfriend, who is his mistress. It was recorded without his knowledge. She apparently was wearing a wire at the time. And he said some disparaging remarks, essentially saying that he didn't really like her associating with black people, and that he didn't want to see them at his games. Made some remarks about ex-Lakers star and current Los Angeles businessman Magic Johnson that were not too savory. Essentially, the public got a hold of the remarks and they made their rounds initially on sports outlets such as your ESPNs, Fox Sports, NBCSN, CBCSN, etc. But eventually it exploded into national news, making CNN, social media, all the broadcast news channels picked up on it. There were some questions initially to the legitimacy of the reports, but by the time that the 27th, 2 days later, came around, the National Basketball Association, who is the governing body for the Clippers, announced that they would be investigating into the comments. But of course, this didn't stop the action from having some ripple effects. Obviously, as knowledge of the comments came out, they weren't well taken across the league and in the public eye, especially in the NBA, which, as we'll look at later, has a primarily black audience and player base, as well as a high amount of diversity in its workforce, essentially. So it wasn't taken very well. It's a public relations nightmare, especially in the few days that um, led up to some action by the league. A lot of negativity and speculation surrounding the events. The Clippers were also in the middle of the playoffs at the time against the Golden State Warriors. They staged a silent protest that consisted of them as a team collectively removing their warm-up jerseys before the game and wearing their shirts that generally said Clippers inside out. So that was noted by the league on during their game 4 before game 5. Advertisers pulled out of a lot of sponsorships, and there were rumors running through the league that both the Warriors and Clippers would be boycotting the game along with fans. Other players, coaches, and media staples around the league were very, very outspoken in not enjoying Donald Sterling's comments, and Doc Rivers was one of them. He believed that at the time when there was speculation that he did say the things and that he was questioning working for him, but essentially stayed out of the public eye. But 4 days later, on the 29th, before Game 5, none of that came to fruition because National Basketball Association Commissioner Adam Silver announced at 2 o'clock in the afternoon before a night game on the West Coast that he would be essentially handing down the highest punishment possible by the league to an owner, which is $2.5 million fine and a ban from the league lifetime. There would also be further actions, but those were handed down very quickly afterwards in the immediate fallout. There was also a lot of rumor that the owners would try to force him to leave his team, and they eventually stated that on June 3rd the owners would be sitting down to meet and take a vote about whether or not they would try to get essentially remove Sterling from being able to operate his team and force a sale in order to save the reputation of the league, just out of the best interest of the league. You need three-quarter vote, but there was a lot of rumor that it would be unanimous. We know now that Sterling is potentially trying to navigate a forced sale through his wife because of a ban, Shelley Sterling. But there were some initial reports that he would take the matter to court, and he was relatively outspoken, doing some media rounds, essentially against against his statements, trying to justify them to the media. Notably, an interview with CNN's Anderson Cooper, in which he essentially said that he wasn't a racist and that he only said those comments that because he was trying to quote sleep with this woman, Miss Viviano, and he would say anything to do that while he was saying racist comments. Not quite sure. He furthermore kind of attacked Magic Johnson, saying he wasn't a role model for kids. Didn't really go over so well. So there's still some questions, but it seems to this point that Sterling is going to be out of the league and that this crisis is kind of moving forward, but at the time it was very, very disparaging towards the Clippers, the leagues, and it still is very condemning of Donald Sterling and his reputation. He's a huge real estate owner as well in Los Angeles, which is how he made his fortune. Taking a look at the stakeholder and publics in this event, you've got the Clippers, Donald and Shelley Sterling, the Clipper staff and employees, essentially. The NBA as well, because they're the governor. The Clippers are part of the league, and thus they have a stake as one of the 30 teams there. As one of there are 30 total teams, 29 other teams, and they operate under the league, and thus there's a lot of stake held by the league. The media and other fans will both be kind of informal and symbolic stakeholders because they get a lot of their content from there, but they're also publics, as you see at a lot of the low-level areas. There's a lot of overlap because they are reliant to get news, or reliant because they're season ticket holders or have stakes in the more symbolic stakes in the team, but they're also the publics that would be raising concerns. As far as looking at this as a crisis, under Coombs' identification, this would be an accident because it was a human error accident. He didn't intend for these comments to reach the public, but unfortunately for him, they did. So there's that. And then, again, because the audience, players, and coaches are predominantly black, this raises another major issue. These comments also illuminated a past of Sterling being kind of bigoted, which wasn't so good as well. So it raised a lot of questions for the league. As far as risk to the organizations, the Clippers and the NBA could have been faced with loss of an interest by fans, lower attendance, players, coaches, and staff being unwilling to work for the Clippers and forcing trades or voids in contracts, which might have cleared out the team in the offseason. Continued poor media coverage and loss of sponsorships. But eventually, because of the responses of the NBA and the Clippers, they were able to essentially avoid major backlash because it was so quick and so effective on both fronts. The maximum punishment really showed that the league was not tolerant because the Clippers were silent and kind of waited for the league to act, but also vocally, kind of visibly showed that they weren't approving. They were two very good responses. They showed that there was an issue, and the league took care of it, and the players were willing to act as well. As for Sterling, as discussed before, his responses have not been as well, and he seems to be wanting to kind of fade away into obscurity, which might be a better move for him. Again, we may see the sale of the team in the future of players, and head coach Doc Rivers, who is black as well and has been actually the aspect of racial violence before, the centerpiece of racial violence before. His family was attacked once while they were vandalized once while they were on holiday. That remains to be seen. There's also implications of the NBA as a global brand, but it seems that they've put that behind them. But it seems that, and with the June 3rd meeting, we'll see how that goes as well. But that seems to be the future moving forward. But again, it seems as though the league has escaped, and the Clippers have escaped any major PR buffs. Okay, so that was my presentation on Donald Sterling. Sorry it's a little bit long, but obviously there's a lot of information. Please looking forward to your comments and discussions surrounding this, and I hope you're all doing very well in this lovely course and enjoying your summer. So until next time, bye-bye.